To the top of the political food chain we go now. I should mention, by the way, the former governor, Sonny Perdue, is coming in studio in just a couple of minutes. His warm-up act, he joins us every Wednesday at this time, political analyst Stephen Lawson. Good morning, my friend.
Yeah, high bar coming before Governor Perdue. What a great man.
I had to open for Jeff Foxworthy a couple months ago, so you can handle this, my friend. Let's start about the government shutdown. It looks like Speaker Johnson has the votes. They're going to vote tonight, straight to President Trump's desk, and the government should be reopened by tomorrow morning. Was this just all a big waste of time for the Democrats?
Yeah, boy, it's certainly looking that way. I think if you're a Democrat, you're left kind of scratching your head. And again, it gets back to this thing about, what did they get out of this, right? And a lot of the Democrats outside of the 8 who were Republicans were able to get on their side and to break the logjam said that they won the messaging battle on healthcare, talking about healthcare. Yeah, maybe to an extent, but the bigger question mark, I think, is they lost the messaging battle and they lost the actual battle of shutting the government down for over 40 days. And I think this is the central question if you're a Democrat, right? They're constantly being pulled in two different directions, right? They have the base of their party that is clearly clamoring, we want this shutdown, we want to stand up to Donald Trump, we don't want you to cave in. But then the practical side is we have flight cancellations and flight delays. We have people going without SNAP and WIC benefits. We have people that aren't getting government services. Which one matters more, both in the near term, but also in the long-term political reality for Democrats?
I always defer to sports analogies, just that's the way my brain works. And it's like the Democrats fought 4 quarters and then got to overtime. And then we're like, all right, we concede. We give it. Like, why if it makes no sense to me that you shut the government down for 40 days. If you go through all that pain, see it through overtime and actually get something accomplished. But as you mentioned, with the flight delays and cancellations and all these folks not getting paid, it was just bad play management by the Democrats, I think.
It was. And if you look at what's interesting, if you look at the 8 Democrats who came across and voted with Republicans in the Senate to open up, they're people who are either not up for re-election until 2028 or even 2030.
Yeah.
But there's people who are thinking about retiring. There's Angus King, right, who's an independent who probably is going to retire and doesn't care. Catherine Cortez Masto in Nevada, she was probably getting some pressure from Las Vegas. Obviously, that's very tied to air travel. So lots of different reasons, but it's going to be really interesting to see both here in Georgia and across the country how this impacts Democrats' brand moving forward.
The only concessions, and I use concessions in quotes, that the Democrats got in this Senate deal was all the firings made during the shutdown will be reversed. Well, if the government wasn't shut down, they wouldn't have been fired in the first place. And then a handshake agreement that, yes, we'll talk about healthcare reform, which is non-binding. It's probably nothing's going to come of that. It's just poor clock management, if you will. Going back to sports again.
Yeah, totally agree. Now, the one lingering question I think that they may have on their side, right, we've talked about it on the show, are these subsidies in the Affordable Care Act that are set to expire. That's still something that Democrats feel like they will be able to use against Republicans. And look, we've talked about affordability. That was a very clear message that in both Georgia and across the country that voters sent last week. It will be interesting to see if Democrats are able to continue to weaponize this conversation around skyrocketing insurance premiums.
Yeah, and again, that was, I said November 1st, the government would remain shut down because Democrats wanted folks to get sticker shock when it comes to their health care and open enrollment. And I guess the only thing they could do is say, hey, we tried. Sorry, you're gonna pay 200% more. I mean, it's just not a strong message. President Trump is pushing back on the economic data and the polls that folks are paying more for just about everything now, saying that it's fake news. Everything's cheaper now. That is, aside from gasoline, which I was pleasantly surprised when I filled up the other day, which to me is notably cheaper. Everything else seems to be more expensive. Is the president getting bad data, or is he just like, you know what? I'm just going to stick my flag in the ground and say no. Everything's cheaper than it was under, as he said, Sleepy Joe Biden.
Yeah, I think it's a number of things, right? I think the president has been obviously laser focused on these tariffs that you and I have talked a lot about. I think he's been able to his credit, to get a lot of these trade deals done. There's a lot of investment coming back into the country, but it's a slow process. And it's a delayed effect, I think, is what we're seeing, is that those prices have not come down as quickly as the president would like, as quickly as all of us would like. So when you talk about inflation, cost of living, right, when people are going to the grocery store, they're not getting that tariff rebate, right? If
No.
anything, they're seeing their prices go up a little bit. And so I think that's going to be something to continue to watch. I think the message clearly that was delivered to the president last Tuesday was, we've got to focus on affordability. We've got to be laser focused on that, because if we're not, November 2026 is going to be a really bad day for Republicans.
I would